Today we're here to talk about your calves. So, when we think about calves, for the most part, everyone thinks of them as one muscle. However, we're going to talk about why there's a little bit more going on there. And we're going to focus on two main parts of your calves. You have your gastroc and your soleus. Your gastroc is what most people think of those two muscles, that kind of bulging muscle on your calf. It looks kind of cool. The soleus, a longer, thinner muscle, still very large, that's underneath that layer as well. Often underrated, your soleus is also really important, and we'll focus on these two for today. So, your calves, your gastroc and soleus, why is this important and who is it for? Well, it's really important because it is a primary shock absorber in your body, especially when you run, absorbing up to 60% of the forces coming up from the ground. So if you're a runner or a triathlete, or honestly any team sport, land-based athlete, this is crucial for you to understand and crucial for you to train. So let's talk about more as to why they're so important. We know they absorb so much force, but what else is going on? So when you initially impact and contact the ground, the first thing that touches the ground is your foot and your ankle. Then what? Your foot and ankle doesn't have a huge muscle around it, but it does right above there. You have your calf, right? So that calf is going to act like a suspension on a car, absorbing all that force. And if it's not absorbing it, where is it going? It's going to go up the chain to your tibia, your shin bone, to your knee, and so on and so forth. So when you have calves that are a little bit undertrained and you have injuries up the chain, you sometimes want to check if your calves are strong enough. So that's the normal demand of what our calves should be able to handle and how much they should be able to handle. So for you runners and your triathletes here, trail runners too, we're in the era of super shoes. Now, super shoes don't mean super you, but what we do know is that super shoes change your biomechanics, which changes how your foot ankle and the rest of your body interact with gravity as you run. What does this mean? So, our calves have been shown, especially our gastroc, to have a higher demand when you're running in super shoes. Your soleus, however, gets a little bit stiffer with super shoes. So what does that mean? There's an increased demand on your gastroc in super shoes. What it does, it pitches you forward onto your toes earlier and more often. So the demand on your calf has increased in this day and age. Your soleus, which is a really, really powerful muscle, has decreased in activity and therefore stiffens. There's also less dorsiflexion with super shoes, which transfers more force up towards the shin and knee. We'll talk about that in another video. However, these days, it's even more important for you to train your gastroc and your soleus. What we need to do now is understand the function, again, of your gastroc, soleus, and how it applies to you, and what we can do to make sure we continue performing well, we don't get injured, and we're adapting to this new era of super shoes. So let's dive into what you normally need for the minimal muscular endurance in your calves. So if you're doing a single leg calf raise with body weight, which means you're coming up and down on one leg, balanced, slow, and controlled, the minimal capacity you need is around 25 single leg calf raises. This is for injury prevention, not for performance. So what does that tell us? We need to be able to do more than that. So, on the contrary, what is the minimal muscular strength we need? So let's dive into strength versus endurance real quick. Strength is how much force can you produce with your muscle. Endurance is how many contractions can you do through that muscle, right? Very different. Think sprinting versus a marathon. You do use different muscles here. So the minimal strength an endurance athlete should have, research has shown, is approximately being able to do 5 reps of half of your body weight for a single leg calf raise. Now, These are just baseline metrics. However, 5 at half of your body weight is a good baseline to start with. Again, these are minimal thresholds for endurance sports. However, we want to be able to perform and sustain that over time. So we would like to build up strength over time there. So you have your 25 calf raises body weight, 5 calf raises with weight, building up to half of your body weight at least eventually. You do need both. You can't ignore top end strength or muscular endurance. Keep in mind, we just talked about super shoes. That does change things, so we'll talk about that in a second. We don't know what the baseline metrics are in the day and age of super shoes. But let's use logic. You would hypothetically need more calf strength and maybe more calf endurance as well. The demand is higher. So we haven't talked about the soleus specifically now, right? So the soleus getting stiffened, we do know that a bent knee calf raise or a seated calf raise can stimulate the soleus more. So let's keep that in mind. That is an exercise we will want to use as well to keep us healthy. So let's talk about isometrics. All the rage right now. Super important, and it can increase your passive stiffness, which is how much spring you have, right? So the isometrics, fantastic exercise. You should do them, but we can't forget about the basics of muscle tendon function. You do need a full contraction and a full stretch of that tissue, which is your muscle. If it can't stretch all the way and contract back, you're likely to get an injury. So you do need to pair full range of motion exercises with isometrics as well, right? The basics of muscular contraction, eccentric and concentric, right? That's stretching and contracting. The soleus, let's come back here for a second. We said it gets stiffer over time in super shoes, which means what? It is adaptively stiff and shortened. We need to reapply range of motion so we get a full stretch of that soleus and allow it to contract all the way again, right? Full stretch and contract again. If a muscle is always really tight, it's going to pull on that tendon. In this case, that's the Achilles tendon. So we're seeing a little bit of a higher incidence, likelihood of Achilles injuries these days. Why? These may be some factors. So isometrics are great. You should do them. We have a whole deep dive on those as well. That's in our Substack. You can check it out. A deep dive into isometrics, when you should do them, how you should do them. However, let's not forget about the basics. Full range of motion, you have to train that. This applies to almost every joint. So do your isometrics. Don't forget about the basics of full range of motion, concentric, eccentric. So let's come back to our gastroc, our calf raises, and how should we do these? So we talked about our baselines. We have 25 calf raises, and we talked about our baseline of strength. We have 5 calf raises at half of your body weight. So fun fact here, we test this a lot in our facility in Boulder here, where we have Olympic athletes coming in. We even have some Division I NCAA athletes that come and train with us as well. We do these tests, and surprisingly, not all of these people and most people can hit these metrics. So if you can't do these also, you're not alone, and it's okay. All this means, doesn't mean you're weak. It means we have a good starting point to understand, and we know where we need to progress to. So how do we get to 25 calf raises? Should you be doing 25 calf raises every day, 4 times a day, or 4 sets of 25? No. With the rules of hypertrophy and building strength, just doing more reps of body weight is shown to not be an effective way to increase strength. In fact, doing that over and over again could actually cause an injury, an overuse injury, and it'll create a lot of fatigue and soreness. Let's move back to strength. 7, the lower end, to 10 to 12 reps in hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is a scary word these days for endurance athletes. It means building muscle. But here's the thing, you're not going to get bulky. It's okay. You do need to build more muscle and recruit more motor units in your lower leg, in your gastroc soleus complex, your calf. So, starting with 7 and even 5 is okay, but we want to build up to being able to do 10 or 12. So it's okay if we're only starting at a quarter of your body weight. Whatever it is, start with a weight you can do up to 7 or 10, and then progress up to 10 or 12 before you come back down to maybe 7 or 5 with increasing weight. Now, this comes into a conversation of periodization. We'll cover this as well in a later YouTube. Periodization means, when do we take some up times, harder days in the gym or training, and when do we come down a little bit to allow you to recover? So we do need to allow our tissue to deload. We can't just do them all the time. 2 times a week is plenty to get some physiological adaptation, right? 30 minutes is the bare minimum, 2 times a week, to get some good strength adaptations. Now, when do we cycle off? Honestly, it's whenever you feel like you need to, because this is not just a strength sport. You're an endurance athlete and you train a lot. So if you feel like you need to take a little bit of step back in the gym, that's okay. Feel it out. General rules of thumb, you can go a 3 weeks on, 1 week deload, 2 weeks on, 1 week deload, right? A 1-to-1 you can do. It's not recommended, but again, like we said, it's whatever you feel like you need to do. So to recap some of the basics here, gastroc soleus, 2 main muscles in your calves. We need to do full range of motion. They absorb a lot of impact. Isometrics are also great. 25 reps body weight, baseline. 5 reps at half your body weight, baseline. Now, we can't forget about one key part here. When we run, things happen quickly. So plyometrics come into play here. Plyometrics is a huge deep dive we did last month. You can refer back to the video. It'll be right down here. And we will be able to combine these concepts into a more holistic plan for your gastroc soleus, your calf complex. Now remember, combining plyometrics is a high intensity exercise. You need to start with the basics. That was our previous video, part 1 of plyometrics, the basics. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that. Every month we'll be releasing one video that's going to deep dive into something that's going to elevate your performance as an endurance athlete. So if you're enjoying these, follow and subscribe.